Is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may be used for training purposes. Anyone else recording or filming from within the room must not obstruct the view of the councillors, officers, the public, and press, and that flash photography must not be used unless this has been agreed beforehand. Apologies. We have received apologies from Councillor Viderhall and Councillor Graham, with Councillor Castle and Councillor Chambers attending as their substitutes. Are there any other? There's no other. No, okay. Declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Minutes. On to agenda item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Are members happy to approve as correct record of the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, 12th of May?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have it. Thank you. We haven't received any public questions for this meeting, and we have not received any petitions or deputations. So on to number 6, the annual report of the Head of Audit Risk Assurance 2024-25. On the first submissive agenda item, this is a report from the Head of Audit Risk Assurance, providing the committee with the annual report on internal audit activity in line with the relevant reporting requirements. Over to you, Fish.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to you and to the committee. And there's quite a lot of papers to get through, so with your permission, I'll take them as read. We'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. And the first on page 13, as you correctly say, is the annual report of the Head of Internal Audit, which I am required to provide to the committee by, in this case, the Public Sector Internal Audit Standards, but going forwards under the new Global Internal Audit Standards. Okay. So the committee is asked to assess from the findings of the report whether you have reasonable assurance that the internal control environment, which consists of risk management, control and governance, is operating effectively, and secondly also to assess internal audit's performance and that it meets the required standards. I'll very quickly take you through the report, but with your permission, may I take this opportunity to thank Spencer, who is our principal auditor and lead auditor for Gloucester City, but the wider our internal audit team who have worked so hard and diligently throughout the year and enabled me to produce this report. So this really is a reflection of all of your hard work, and thank you for that. And may I also thank officers and members of the Council for your help and assistance to us throughout the year. So section 1 is just the introduction, really setting out the purpose of this report and the regulatory background to it. In section 2, Chair, you have the overall opinion, which I'm pleased to say is acceptable. And I can also confirm that there were no limitations to resources or any constraints that have affected our work. In section 3, I take you through the code of ethics that we must abide by. Section 4 is just some salient points from the work throughout the year. And in section 5, I have some performance parameters, Chair, and I'm delighted to say that 85% of the plan was achieved, which is actually our target, so we were able to hit that bang on the nose. And also that 100% we send out client satisfaction surveys with each completed internal audit report, and of those that were received back, 100% were good or excellent. Happy to take any questions.
Alistair?
Thank you, Chair. With regards to item 2.4, audit and assurance level, would you be able to explain contract management? It's got not applicable, then it's got advisory in brackets.
Yeah. So, yes, so it was, we distinguish between advisory consultancy type pieces of work as opposed to those which are internal an actual audit. Okay, the difference being that an audit is something that is included as part of our internal audit plan at the beginning of the year. However, through the course of the year, management may say, are you able to have a look at something for us? And in which case, take what's called an advisory piece of work.
Thank you. Given that...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Chair.
Do you have another question?
Several, I'm sure. Sorry, Chair, I've got a couple of follow-on just for that, if that's okay.
Councillor Pullen had put his hand up. Can you come back, Councillor Pullen?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm on the same page, which is unusual to be on the same page as Councillor Chambers, but there we go. Anyway, seriously, pleased to see that everything down there is acceptable, except for one, culture grants, which is substantial. And I just wondered what it was about the way that you work with culture grants that makes those substantial as opposed to everything else being acceptable.
I would say that after following the review, it's the an assessment that Spencer and the auditor as to the level of internal control, the level of risk management, and whether risks are being adequately mitigated. So it's a judgment based on our work. And what we found, I think, in that case, Spencer, is that we were able to place substantial reliance. It's just something that was being managed particularly well.
Good, thank you for that. And of course, that almost sets a precedent then, doesn't it? Because if one of the criteria is substantial, then surely, and I think we've had this debate before, if you have a satisfactory Ofsted inspection, then actually that's not satisfactory. You're expected to be improving. Is that the case? Should we not be aspiring to be substantial for everything?
Yes, is the answer to that. I think that's the highest level of assurance that we can provide. Yeah.
Councillor Chambers, do you have another question?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for that earlier. I didn't say sorry. Yeah, following up for the contract management advisory note, if you turn to page 161 and 159, I note that there's concerns over contract administration with regards to 161 being the council should ensure that future tenders of this nature, that all assessors and those with decision-making responsibilities over the awarding of the contract should complete relevant declarations of interest. So they pulled up that on the allocation of the leisure activities, there's a medium risk rating because people that awarded the contract didn't actually do any declarations of interest. So, for example, when we set our meetings here, one of the first things we do is make sure there's no declarations of interest in case anyone's going to have a one-sided view on something. And it looks like such a big contract like GL1, £1 million type contract, £8 million I think was awarded, that there's no declarations of interest. And then you've got the same issue on page 159, where GCC should consider drawing up documentation that's in section 15 of the contract itself wasn't documented or followed up. And the item underneath as well is also medium risk. So I was wondering, given that there's been risks around contract management and allocation of contracts.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. James. We're still doing this report. I think 1511, it's going way ahead.
Oh, sorry, Chair. Yeah, these are...
have questions.
Yeah, so they're background information to the contracts and those things. So if you look at, for example, you've got waste and cleaning.
Well, I think we're just doing the first report.
Are you saying that report later on affects the one with
Exactly that, yeah. So each section here, you've got waste and cleaning, visitor experience guild hall, contract management. You've got each section there, and it's got a subsection to it. It's basically a bit like an appendices to it. I appreciate it's in section 13. But so to clarify that, My concerns is that there's no acceptable or substantial or satisfactory noting, just advisory there for contract management. Why is that the case when later on in section 13 it says that there was medium risk concerns with regards to contract management and awarding of multi-million pound contracts, given that there's no declarations of interests being awarded? And that's something that should have been done. Thank you.
That is another paper, Chair, but I think what you may find is that that might be another review, not the one we're talking about in the annual report of the head of the internal audit. Yep. Okay.
Can we just have questions on this paper? Okay, because then otherwise we're going to get very muddled and repeating ourselves. Yeah.
I'll make sure I ask section 13 and section 13. Going back to section 5 conclusion, I just want to get my head around this the satisfaction questionnaire. So ARA, is that yourselves? ARA is yourselves. So ARA conducts an independent audit check on the City Council. Is that correct? Yes. So the City Council then score you. You score the City Council with a report, and then the City Council then score you on your performance. Is that what the conclusion is? Okay, sorry, to clarify. So ARA is yourselves. Thank you for explaining that. And you conduct this report on the City Council on their audit, correct? Yeah. And then afterwards, you give them a questionnaire to ask the City Council on how well you did. Okay, would that not be a conflict of interest? Because you're kind of like, oh, I've just scored you really good. Now you're going to score me really good. And City Council just happened to get exactly 85% that they needed 85%. Not saying, it's just an observation. City Council on 5.5 just managed to get 85% just, and it was 85% they needed to meet the target. And then they then score you, and they scored you excellent. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you think? Well, is there a risk? I would not say that at all. That would be terrible. Okay. But what I'm trying to say is, would it be better off if maybe an independent review reviews your performance rather than the person you just reviewed?
Chair, so this is just, it's feedback for us to help us improve how we work, and you know, if one of those surveys came back and said we weren't satisfied with a certain aspect of our service delivery, then, you know, the principal auditor would go back to that person and you know, discuss that through. In terms of independent assessment, on item 12 on your agenda, Chair, you have the external quality assessment, which is a wholly independent assessment.
That we are audited independently, and that has come through. Councillor Chambers, it's on the agenda. Any other questions from anyone?
It's part.
No? Okay.
So is everybody.
That's everyone. Are members, sorry, I should have my glasses. Are members assured that the internal control environment is operating effectively and content to note that the performance of internal audit meets the required standards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That report is noted. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the Counter Fraud Team Annual Report 24 to 25 from the Head of Audit Risk Assurance, providing the Council with an annual report on counter fraud activity in the Council, led by the Counter Fraud Team.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so this is the annual report on counter fraud activity in the Council, led by the Audit Risk Assurance Counter Fraud Team, the CFT, and it describes the great work that they've undertaken during 24-25 around things such as policy development, whistleblowing, helping the Council to update and refresh its whistleblowing arrangements, as well as work on the supported housing improvement programme. It also includes the sharing of relevant information with teams around fraud and fraud risks, as well as helping them to assess their actual fraud risks and helping with mitigating those. as well as some really outstanding bespoke and targeted training. They also report here some of the outcomes of the work that was undertaken. And so you can see from this, Chair, quite, really the breadth of work that the counter-fraud team, working in partnership with city officers, it is a joint effort, and it goes just beyond sort of undertaking investigations, Chair. And it also is forward-looking in that it lays out some of the work streams for this financial year as well. And so I hope that you can conclude from that that the counter-fraud team offers a robust and effective counter-fraud service.
Are there any questions on the counter-fraud team annual report 2024-25? Can I go to Councillor Pullen first?
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at page 33 and 34, and there's a summary of referral actions, 121 referrals. 70 were dealt with and passed back with a recommendation of £70 civil penalty notice. 119 resolved. Does that mean that there was, for want of a better term, no case to answer? So they came forward, you looked at them, and you were happy that everything was right and proper within those cases?
Thank you, Chair. So apologies, because I saw this and you might add up 119 and 70 and 20 and think that's a little bit more than 121. And so apologies for the wording and how we've worded that. That 121 is the 119 and the 2, 121, of which 70, yeah. So apologies around, we didn't make that clearer. That's right. All referrals are triaged to see is there substance to this? Is there something that we can investigate, or is there something that the actual person who's referring it, the service, it's an action for them to undertake, or there's nothing to see here. So that's. Yeah.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to page 34, bottom of page 34, I know there's been cases where housing providers have been claiming for services that have not been provided, and there's been a recovery of £181,000, which is fantastic work by yourself and your team, so thank you for that. And I see you've got a weekly benefit reduction of 7,293. Further, there's been a £380,000 that's been reduced for housing benefit that's been found by a provider. Is there any fines for providers that have been incorrectly or falsely claiming these additional charges and have been found to do so, given that there's nearly £500,000 worth of overclaims here?
Could I take that away, please, and come back to the committee on that? I'll have to go back and ask the counter-fraud team that question. I don't have that detail with me, I'm afraid.
One more question, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you. Page 36 says there was 70 fines at £70 for people claiming independent council tax. Again, that was fantastic work by you and your team to identify so many people that have been claiming single person's discount on council tax. So thank you again for that. Cheers.
Any more questions? Oh.
You're not going to keep me quiet that long. Yeah, it was going on from what Terry was, that section. Of the £70 fines, how much did we actually collect? Do we know?
Again, can I come back? I think those were issued by the council, so based on the evidence we gathered. What's happened after that, how much has been collected, I'm afraid I don't have that information.
fined for littering and stuff like that, how much do we actually get back? You know, is it £1 a week from years on end and that sort of thing? It's very frustrating that people can do this and get away with it by paying so little. But if they did pay their 70 quid, crack on, you know, good luck to them. But it would be nice to know sometime.
Chair, I think the bigger gain for the council is it's not just the £70 fine, it's the ending of the single person discount that A, they didn't pay, but B, that they have then been subsequently charged for.
Chambers, you have one more question?
Thank you, Chair. If Ashley's got one, if he wants to go in front of me, break it up a bit.
Ms. Bilkent.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if the administrative cost per issuing of a civil penalty fine outweighs the actual fines recouped and the council tax recouped or not, or, you know, where do you draw the line on this kind of thing?
I'm happy to confirm, but I think that fixed penalty, it's like a fixed penalty. It is what it is. I don't think the council can influence how much that, you know, we can't charge £100. It's £70 is I think, like a statutory sort of limit. But as I said a moment ago, that's the actual penalty. But what the council gains is that single person discount. That's the bigger gain.
So recouping that is a successful endeavour, making it financially worthwhile pursuing the claim per customer. That's what I'm getting at.
There we go. Yes, the answer is yes. It's worth doing the single. I mean, part of the work of the counter-fraud team is the National Fraud Initiative, which I mentioned in a report later. And a lot of these single-person discount issues, frauds, are identified through that, and they can be thousands and thousands of pounds. So it really is worth doing. Yeah.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. If you turn to page 37 and page 38, there's the 2025-2026 FFCL pillar government document. It shows the areas, objectives and methods. I noticed there's no dates on there. I appreciate there's quite a broad time frame of 2025-2026. Is it possible to have dates put in there of when these points are going to be reached and materialised? Just because I've got a question on that.
I can certainly put it to the counter-fraud team. I think they have such a high workload anyway that sometimes some of this, it has to be prioritised with their investigative work. So it is their aim to do all of this, and I know they're working through these work streams, Chair. But I don't know if we're able to give precise dates. I will raise the question, however.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, it's just these fines and all the rest of it are all very good and this and that. Who knows about them? It's only a deterrent if people know it's a deterrent. So I would think, could we have a bit more publicity about we had 70 people fined for not claiming the right things, and it cost them so many thousands. It's a good PR story, and it will put the odd one off. If it puts one person off, it's worth the money then, isn't it? So if we could do that, I'd be happy. I don't know if the rest of the group agree or not, but I would think it should be in with the council tax when it goes out.
We can definitely put some comms together. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, what comms we do, and we find this in the past, but I could definitely speak to the new head of comms to make sure that we do cover it when appropriate.
We've done it for fines and stuff like that. And I think this could actually be worth a lot more to us if it was done properly, and it becomes a social stigma that, oh, I got done for not charging or doing the wrong thing. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
Any more questions? Good. Oh, feedback. Right, the next item on the agenda is a report from me as the Chair, summarising the Audit and Governance Committee's activities during 2024 and 25 and setting out our plan for the next 12 months. The report is included in the papers at Appendix 1A and sets out the responsibilities and functions of the committee and the achievements over 2024-25. It also summarises our plans for 25 to 26 to continue providing a source of assurance over the Council's risk management and control environments, as well as the financial and performance reporting arrangements. That is a brief introduction from me. Yes? Do you have anything to add before we take questions?
Only to say that this is obviously the highlight of the evening, Chair, your report. And no, it's thank you very much for your help in helping me to pull this together. But once the committee has approved the report, you would then need to present it to full council.
Thank you. Councillor Bucket.
Thank you. Can I just check whether officers believe that Councillor Miller has achieved the relevant KPI for this report? It's a tongue-in-cheek question. Your turn.
Sorry, Chair, I've got a couple of questions on your report.
Councillor Pullen first.
Can I first say, Chair, it's really nice to have an audit with a sense of humour. Not all auditors have that, with respect. Can I also say thank you to the Chair, because I know you picked this up halfway through the year, in fairness, and the Vice Chair as well. So thank you for that. It is appreciated, and there's an awful lot of complex information in the report. Certainly of all the committees that I sit on, this is the one that has the most complex and detailed information. So thank you.
Councillor Chambers, do you have a question?
I don't, for once.
Are members assured? Sorry, that's the wrong thing. Does the committee have any questions? You've done that. Are members content to agree with the Audit Governance Committee annual report and recommend to Council that it be approved?
Yeah.
That,
Well done.
okay. That report is agreed and approved for Council to consider. Okay. On the agenda, item 9, the Internal Audit Strategy 2025 to 26. It is the responsibility of the Head of Audit Risk Assurance to develop and implement a strategy for the Internal Audit Service, which supports the service strategic objectives and aligns with the expectations of the Audit and Governance Committee. Over to you.
So thank you again, Chair. So on page 59, you have the internal audit strategy. And one of the requirements of the new global internal audit standards, which came into effect on the 1st of April this year, is that internal audit should have a standalone strategy. Now, in the past, that wasn't a requirement. And so some councils, some audit teams had strategies, others didn't. And what we did in our strategy, as it were, was evidenced through the quality assurance and improvement programme, which you have on your agenda later. But the requirement now is to have an actual standalone strategy. And I suppose, as it says, it's quite a high-level sort of strategic look at how internal audit will develop and ensure that we provide a quality service to the council, whereas the quality assurance and improvement programme, the QAIP, is a more detailed document with sort of timelines and things like that. So we set out our vision and mission within this, and how our work relates to the Council's strategic aims and key risks. And we also set out how we will enhance our work through the innovative use of technology, and how this is part of our approach of continuous improvement going forwards. And the committee is asked to approve the strategy.
Are there any questions for Piers on the internal audit strategy? Councillor Lewis.
It's not really a question, it's just I like number 7, a culture of continuous improvement. It sums it all up, isn't it? And that's what we should all strive to do, you know, to just get better at what we do, or not, as the case may be. But I think I commend you on it. I think it's, I would say, quite high level, but it gives you a guideline as to what to go for and what to aim for, and it's good.
Any other questions or comments? Right. Okay. So are members happy to approve the internal audit strategy 2025-26?
Absolutely.
Okay, that report is approved. Agenda item 10 is a report on the internal audit charter and code of ethics, which a head of audit risk assurance has to periodically review and present. Over to you.
Thank you again, Chair. So on page 67, you have the internal audit charter, and again, one of the requirements of the global internal audit standards is that internal audit should maintain a charter and quality assurance and improvement programme, which I shall refer to as the QAPE, going forwards, because I can never remember always what it does stand for. And both of these are on your agenda this evening, starting with the charter on page 63. And as you have just mentioned, this is periodically reviewed and it needs to be approved by senior management as well as this committee. The charter requires us to state what internal audit's mandate is, what its statutory authority is to undertake the work that we do, the purpose, and as well as our responsibilities, but also our position within the council. So on page 69, Chair, we do set out what the mandate and the authority is, which comes largely from the 1972 Local Government Act, as well as the Accounts and Audit Regulations of 2015. And we also lay out the purpose and definition of internal audit there. Shall I take the QAPE as well, Chair, or shall I pause there for any questions? I'll pause there for any questions.
Any questions for Piers? Councillor Lewis.
Has this in any way, shape or form significantly changed since the last time?
Only in as much as I think we take cognizance of the new standards as well as lay out how we will be going forwards with regards to technology.
Any other questions for councillors? No? Right. Are members happy to improve?
Yeah.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Audit charter and note of code of ethics have been approved. Okay. The next item on the agenda is another one of Pierce's reports and presents the Quality Assurance and Improvement Programme 2025-26.
Thank you very much, Chair. So on page 95, you have the QAPE, the Quality Assurance and Improvement Programme. And again, this is a requirement of the Global Internal Audit Standards. The whole thrust of the Global Internal Audit Standards is to raise the professionalism of internal audit globally. And so this is part of that, to maintain a QAPE. And the primary objective of the QAPE is to promote continuous improvement and to ensure that we meet the mandate that we have set out in the charter. There are a number of essential conditions which are stated within the report. And again, that these are ones that both the committee and management should be aware of. But just with regard to this, I shall be bringing another paper in your September meeting, which is a little bit more detailed, nothing too over the top, but just to say how we will be meeting those 8 essential criteria. It also requires internal audit to undertake an annual self-assessment against the new standards, and once every 5 years, as a minimum, once every 5 years, we must have an external quality assessment, which again is in your papers for later on, Chair. So take it as read and happy to take any questions.
Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, on 109, number 9.5, it's the only one in red that does not conform. Any particular reason?
Yes, Chair. So what that refers to, if I just make my screen a bit bigger so I can look at the exact wording. So this is about coordinating internal audit activity, and it's about external audit and internal audit coordinating each sort of work. And the thing is since the abolition of the old Audit Commission, I don't know if you remember them, that long ago, we used to have quite a lot of interaction with them, but they worked under a sort of different frame of reference, Chair. Since that was abolished and we have the new external audit regime where you have, as it were, firms of chartered accountants who are appointed by public sector auditor appointments, they have a different set of terms of reference, which actually precludes them placing really reliance on internal audit. So it's not that they don't want to or we don't want to engage. I think it's a case of they have some fairly tight terms of reference. And so the reason that is red is that we do not coordinate our work with external audit.
Do you think you ever will? Or is it just going to be a superfluous one showing red every time?
I mean, that depends on the statutory sort of requirements. But yeah, I think we were harsh on ourselves a little bit when we assessed this. And so we said, you know, it's not that there isn't any engagement. We do talk to each other, but it's how much reliance we can place on each other's work. So that's why it's red.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. On page 103, Appendix B, reference 1, GIS 13, talks about some audits are taking a greater length of time than others, and work will be undertaken to identify why this is happening. I'm intrigued in this because an audit process, you know, you're following information, you're following a thread, and it's taking you somewhere. And surely, until you've concluded that, time is not the issue.
You're absolutely right in that we won't leave something undone if, you know, it needs to be looked at. I think for us, it's also about efficiency because it means we can do more work, basically. So sometimes it's beyond anyone's control. It might be that we're waiting on information to get to help us to progress a report, or that we've decided to look at something in addition to what we originally thought we'd look at because of what we have found. So in that case, as I say, it's not a case of, you know, there's a guillotine and that's it. We do continue, but it behoves us to look at continuous improvement that I mentioned a moment ago, to always look at how we can be more efficient and more effective as part of our work. And so part of that is some of the things you see here, which is more detailed planning of different aspects of the audit, so that, you know, if we look as if we're going to overrun, the auditor would come and talk to Spencer, and Spencer would say, you know, what have you found? You know, why do we think we're going to overrun? And then it would be up to Spencer to say, look, that's fine, have another day on that aspect. It's something that we need to look at. So it's just about us making sure that we work as effectively as possible.
That's fine. It would just trouble me if resource implications were stopping a process, or heaven help us, I'm sorry, we haven't got the budget to investigate this any further. That would seem completely pointless. But you've given me an assurance that's not the case. So thank you.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. Page 103, the same one Councillor Pullen was talking about, reference to 9.4. I note that there's no progress made during 2024-2025 because there's an app developer wasn't available. I appreciate you saying that time is what it is kind of thing, but is there a way still of having like a simple green, yellow, red, just things overrunning that are going to cause any significant like critical path issues with like programme? If that's possible.
With regard to that particular issue that you've identified, this is about us developing an audit management software. It's going to be quite good once we get it. It is fairly cutting edge. And this is working in conjunction with the ICT department at the county. And I don't think it's remiss of me to say that once they appreciated the exact technical work that was required, they didn't at that time have somebody with those particular skills. What they have done is, as of the beginning of this year, I think around February or March, they have actually appointed a couple of developers who are skilled in this kind of work. And so you're right, there wasn't a lot of development throughout 24-25. However, sort of towards the end of 24-25 and into the present, there has been a good deal of work to the point that I think we're approaching a product that we can certainly try and test out.
Any other? Councillor Pullen? No, sir. Any other questions? Councillor Chambers?
Thank you. Last one on section 11. It's page 109. I appreciate Councillor Lewis has already confirmed a question with you, which was I was going to ask about. It does not confirm. Just with regards to partially confirms, I see that there's partially confirms on honesty and professional courage, on internal audit mandate, building relationships and communication. Does that concern you that there's concerns with building relationships, communication, and also honesty and professional courage?
No, Chair, I think we do abide by, we have a code of ethics and that's laid out in our charter, so we do. I think it's, with regard to the new global internal audit standards, it's about making sure that you've provided training, for example, on ethical issues and how to address ethical issues. So, no, I'm not concerned around our honesty or professionalism. It's just making sure that we abide by the new global internal audit standards in all aspects.
Any other questions from people? Lovely. As members are happy to note the plans and approve the quality assurance and improvement programme? Yes?
Yeah.
That report is noted and approved. Agenda item 12 is the external quality assessment report from PISH, informing members of the outcome of the independent external quality assessment completed by the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy in February 2015. Yes, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you very much, Chair. So you may recall that in January at your meeting, I informed the committee that we were due to have an external quality assessment, an EQA, and that took place in February. And you have the full report of the assessor, which is what I'm required to do as well, is to give you the full report. And I'm delighted to say that in their assessment, we generally conform, which doesn't sound too hot, but that is the highest level of conformance that you can have. The ones below that are partial conformance or no conformance. So that is the other thing the assessor said is that there were no instances of non-compliance. Okay, so I'm really delighted with that. Something else that we asked the assessor to do, because this assessment was against the previous standards, the public sector internal audit standards. We now have a new set of standards. So what we asked him to do was to assess where we are right now in accordance with the new standards and to provide us with a route map towards full compliance, which is part of the quote that you saw. earlier. And again, with your permission, Chair, if I may, can I firstly thank yourself, the Deputy Chair, and all of the officers of the council who engaged with the assessor and for your generous comments. But may I also thank the ARA team as well, because it's their professionalism that is reflected in this report. Thank you.
I'll do a statement.
It is statement.
I'll do a statement, yeah.
Do a statement.
It is always nice when somebody outside tells you how good you are. They're not over, the terminology doesn't really put it in much. It's just, yeah, it conforms, that's about it. You know, but that, like you said, that means a hell of a lot to the councillors and the people of Gloucester that actually, you're doing a good job. And put our thanks on record for yourselves and all the officers and, well, everybody within the council, to be honest. They all have a hand in it somewhere along the line, don't they? But it's nice to know that other people think we're good. So, no problem.
Any other questions or comments or well done, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, again, well done. It's nice. It's an external one and not an internal pat on the back. Cheers. So that's good. Thank you.
So that report is noted. Okay. The final substantive report is the Internal Audit Activity Progress Report 2025 to 26, which informs the Committee of activity progress on the Internal Audit Service in relation to the Internal Audit Plan 2025-26. Please could I remind members that should anyone wish to discuss any aspect of Annex 1, 2 or 3, we will need to consider resolving to exclude the press and public before doing so, as these contain exempt information. Piers, do you have the introduction?
Thank you, Chair. So this is your regular report that comes to every meeting, and what it shows is our activity as up to about, I think, mid-June. There are 3 items on there, as you say. A couple of them are in the non-public part for reasons which I can go into in the non-public part, and one is a grant certification. So thank you, and happy to take any question.
Councillor Chambers, is it not the exempt part or the exempt part? Because you need to...
This is the non-exempt part at the moment. We're in section 13, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. If I am in exempt, which I don't think I am because it's printed in a different colour, please stop me immediately. So there is some concerns with page 149. There's risks, risk priority, your high, medium, and your lows. And there's 14 in the high, 20 in the medium, and only 2 in the lows. When it should probably be balanced the other way around. Page 155 has been a big bugbear with me with regards to the property of around Gloucester City Council and concerns like with the car park, the recent lift closures at King's Walk, and the lifts being shut on 2 occasions now with families inside it in this heat, one being yesterday. It says here, high rating risk. The property and commissioning manager should provide clarity to building managers on where the division of responsibilities lay regarding premises related health and safety issues. So this has been picked up externally, and this is something that I've been raising since 2022 when I got the car park shut because of structural defects. What can be done about this? Because this obviously is not just me barking on. There's external people that are saying that this is a big issue here, and internal people. What can we do about this? Because it seems like nothing's being done. And I appreciate it's not yourself. So I've asked Cabinet for papers on Wednesday last week. Papers that I've been asking for since 2022, and they haven't come through with reports which we unanimously voted in council to have these reports available. I appreciate that's not yourselves, and that's not a criticism of you. And I appreciate you making this open to the public as well, which is really good of you, not hiding anything away and being transparent. So thanks again for that. But you're being in risk management, so I'll try and get to the question now. Being in risk management, what would you suggest we can do to highlight these risks that are being picked up with regards to buildings and management when they've already been clear evidence to show that the public are at risk?
In terms of this report, I mean, the question you raise is a fair one. So this report in itself is around outstanding recommendations from previous internal audit reports, because I'm sure you'll agree, Chair, that it can be quite frustrating if we undertake a piece of work, there are recommendations and those are not actioned. So this is just a summation of all of those, so around the health and safety, but others. I'm delighted that we have a new Section 151 officer now, because we have a point of contact, somebody within the council who can help us to move some of these forward. Now, some of these may have been moved forward, it's just that somebody hasn't updated a record somewhere to say, by the way, I've done this. So some of these are historic, they're quite old, but I'm delighted that I'll be able to work and Spencer will. So hopefully we can clear some of these down and take them off. And what you will find is that over a period of time, this list will get shorter and shorter.
I have a question. When you first came, Ms. Taylor, you said that there's your priority to start getting through some of these. Have you managed to knock them off, as it were?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, at the last meeting, I did say that there were quite a few recommendations on. There are more recommendations than this that were outstanding. We have managed to take a few off, but progress has been slower than we would have liked. But I'm making excuses now, but the last meeting wasn't actually that long ago. So we are working on updating recommendations and going back to the officers, because some of these are quite out of date now. So we need to get some updates in terms of what progress has been made. And if progress has been made, or the recommendation's been complete, then we need to take them off the list. But yeah, hopefully by the next meeting, which is early September, we would have at least got to grips with some of these.
Any other questions? Councillor Pullen?
Thank you, Chair. I don't think I'm in the confidential section on page 158, am I, of the table? I'm okay, good, okay, right. So page 158, licensing and food safety. There's an issue here about 6 monthly DBS checks should be undertaken on all Hackney carriage and private hire drivers. And the target date for implementation was the 31st of January, revised to the 31st of May. Where are we with this? Because from my interpretation and what I'm reading here in terms of the management response, it is to do with an IT issue. My concern is that DBS checks for taxi, private hire, Hackney operators is absolutely crucial, and we cannot have a situation where, because we've got a system failure, we could have taxi drivers out there who haven't got a current DBS certificate and we don't know about it.
I mean, thank you for that question. I'm afraid I don't know the specifics. I know that Spencer has chased the action owner, and we are awaiting a response on that. May I take it away, please, but and have a sort of a dive into that and see if I can get you an appropriate response to that.
Yes, you can. But just bear in mind that the original target date was the 31st of January, revised to May, and we are now in July, and we still haven't resolved it. And members of the public could seriously be at risk if this issue is not identified. So very urgently, please.
No, as Spencer, I don't know if you heard that. So we've identified the issue and management recognise it. It is about mitigating that risk, doing something to, ensure that that doesn't come to pass, what you mentioned. So it is about getting a response. I mean, that is the whole purpose of this entire report, is to highlight those sort of risks, to have that transparency and scrutiny from this committee on these issues. So we will take it away. I'm sorry, I can't give you any more information right now, but I'll endeavour to try and provide an update to you as soon as I can.
And you appreciate the importance.
That's why it's a high risk finding.
Can I suggest that somebody gets a kick out of the backside to get it done? This is basically sort of 6 months out of date. I know there might be mitigating circumstances, but this is quite essential for the safety of the public, which is what we're here. And if somebody is overloaded, we also need to know that and this sort of thing. So if, just let us know exactly what the hold up was when we come round to it. Cheers.
Councillor Chambers?
You'll be glad to know, Chair, that some a group, really core group in the council, has brought through a motion on Thursday that asks the council to statutorily make it CCTV for internal and external for all taxis, because it currently isn't. So hopefully, given that the revelation of today, you might all hopefully think about supporting such a really cool motion by such an awesome political group.
Any more questions on this? No?
That's some good reports.
Are members happy to note the report?
Yeah.
That report is noted.
What's the last one?
The very last item on the agenda is the Audit and Governance Committee Work Programme. The only comment I would make is that members will note that we have added some routine reports to the work programme in line with the internal audit schedule of work. Does anyone have any other comments to the work programme? Mr. Councillor Pullen? No?
Sorry, no, just having a quick read.
Councillor Lewis?
I was just going to say about, we got the thing coming up with the car boot sale and stuff like that. That's the only one that I can think we might have to put in here somewhere along the line. And so I just think, put a comment at the bottom, possibly something like, we are expecting to do an assessment of the car boot sale process or something, and then go from there.
I think it is
Is
there
it in there?
somewhere. At the bottom. Yeah, at the bottom.
Right at the end.
Hempstead Meadows lease process review
Where?
on page 172.
172. Oh, I hadn't gone down far enough. I've gone down 2 pages in November, and after that I was just... Ah, yes, I see. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry to bring it up again. To be sure, it's Irish.
Councillor Pullen?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Lewis, for raising that one. A number of people, including myself, have written to you now indicating the scope of the inquiry. Are we in a position now that you are happy what the scoping of the inquiry is? And I mean, I know it says TBC. Before Christmas, I don't know, what are we looking at?
Right, we haven't actually finished the scope because the document was signed, there were other hold-ups. But we have a meeting next week with officers to go through the scope and to talk about it more. And hopefully then we'll have more of an idea of when the report will be ready. But yes, do you want to add anything?
Only to say, Chair, that we have this meeting next week, and thank you to Lauren for forwarding your emails. I know a couple of members have expressed some thoughts on this. I think, if I may, just ask if there are any more comments from members that they are passed to you by the end of this week. I think we need to now sort of we mentioned this at the previous meeting, so I think members have had hopefully enough time to sort of consider their views on this. But those will help us to shape the actual terms of reference and the scope for this piece of work. So I'd be grateful if members could get comments to you.
Councillor Lewis?
Yeah, just a suggestion, because obviously we'll know what the scope is going to be. Would you like us to just email it out so it actually makes it quicker? So that then, I think, I think we all basically know what we want to know. And I would, we want it done as soon as possible because we're still getting various emails and stuff from ourselves. So if we could, after that meeting, come to a form of words or something, and then we can send it out to everybody just to get their agreement on it so it's quicker.
Absolutely, Chair. So once we've had that meeting and we've had comments back from members, Spencer will draft a form of words, a terms of reference. I will say right now that not everything that members have asked for will be included as part of the scope for reasons I can make clearer nearer the time. But once I have received any advice from the statutory officers that they are comfortable with what we have been asked to look at, I will share that with this committee.
Sorry, I'm intrigued in that comment that you may not be able to carry out some of the requests that we are asking. That concerns me a little bit as members and representatives of people out there. Surely it is for us to indicate what we would like you to look at. What would be the reasons, just as to why you couldn't do that?
That is a general comment. I haven't yet received all of the views back from members. I'm just forewarning you that some things, it may be that somebody else has looked at it, or that information that you require may be available from another source. So I'm just saying, I will try and make the scope as wide as possible. Okay, I want to include as much of what this committee wants within that. But just a forewarning that if I can't, I will come back and say why I can't. But just to say that, I'll try and make it as wide as possible.
Okay, thank you. We need to wait and see.
I think what will happen is that there will be a full and in-depth report, but it will be under the scope that we have remit for. It will be under our audit and governance cover. Do you know what I mean? It won't be something that we don't have. Okay.
It won't be like ONS.
Yeah. That is correct, yes?
Yes, the report will come to this committee.
Does anyone have anything else they want to go onto the work schedule as we're... No? No. Okay, lovely. Councillor Chambers.
Something around the airport. I don't know what, but around the. Can we bring that onto audit and governance or not really? She's waving around frantically, so I'll say that. Let's maybe be quiet.
Thank you, Chair. If I could just dip in here. So that piece of work is something that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee are working on with a planned piece of work. We're still in with to go through stages of that piece of work. It's hoped that it's going to be a joint scoping session with Cheltenham Borough Council, and hopefully we're going to do some scrutiny work in the autumn if we can on the airport.
Could I just come back on that, though? My understanding that the piece of work that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee are looking at, the airport, is to do with operational issues at the airport as it stands now under the ownership of Gloucester and Cheltenham, but nothing to do with the proposed and potential sale of the airport. Am I correct in that?
As it stands, yes, Councillor Pullen, but we haven't had the final scope in session with the Cheltenham Borough Council. So again, same day, actually, we've got a meeting with Cheltenham Borough Council to go through the exact terms of reference of that inquiry.
Is the actual papers and all the rest of it, is that coming to full council again or not? No.
No, so just to be clear, this the piece of work undertaken or future piece of work undertaken by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the airport won't be to revisit the decision made by council. That decision has been made. The issues of interest identified at the moment are to do with the operations, similar updates that we've had before. But no, it won't be an opportunity to revisit the sale decision. That decision has been made.
Any of that? No. All right. Data. Oh, sorry, Alistair.
Thank you, Chair. So just to expand on that, so scrutiny are doing their bit, but is there not a way we can put it on the schedule, subject to them being approved, that we can look into the way the tender was conducted?
That would be a matter for the Overview and Scrutiny Group leads to look at in the scoping session that they're having done next week. So again, I can't for certain say what members are interested in viewing at the moment. Negotiations are still ongoing, but yeah, just to be clear, it wouldn't be to rehash that decision at council, but that's a matter for the group leads at this point to go through with Cheltenham.
Date of next meeting. The date of the next meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee will be Monday, the 8th September 2025. Sorry? Oh, happy summer. have a good break.
Have a good August off.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to this meeting, and the meeting is now closed. Thank you.